Balenciaga, Controversy, Rick Owens, American Gothic, Spring Summer, 2022, 2023, Baggy Jeans, Skinny Jeans, Archive, Performance, Louis Vuitton, Pharrell, Vintage Americana, Indie Sleaze, Avant-Garde, Viral, Big Red Boots, Brands, Logos, Naked, Murder, Fetish, Japanese Archive, Cancelled, Influencer, Fit Check, Life of a Fashion Student, Outfit of the Day, Vivienne Westwood, Stylist, Resell, Jordans, Kanye West, TikTok, Death. My generation is overstimulated yet numb. We're bombarded with an infinitely expanding, accelerating stream of content. We're approaching a flying rate, confined to a creative vacuum encumbered by the pressure of its contents, finally reaching a point where the sheer density is uninhabitable. Social media is as much to blame as human psychology and our fervent need for more. We're desensitized. It will never be enough. And when it is, it's ephemeral, replaced by something else the next day. This dilemma controls what is successful, what propagates, what satiates us, and consequentially controls how we create. According to meta statistics, the average user spends 1.7 seconds on a piece of content before swiping to the next. That user is calloused by the hundreds of pieces of content they consume on the daily. How can you grab the attention of that someone in that time span? Even more, how can you translate a multifaceted thematic message when the face value isn't compelling enough? Unfortunately today, fashion is a tangible sport played on a digital field. This also applies to most forms of art. An object, a texture, a moment, something somewhere at a particular time cannot be properly translated by an Instagram post. I speak for myself and my experience with fashion, but I'm at a point where I've seen almost everything. That majority does not excite me anymore. My feed is an endless stream of simulacra, variations of variations representing an original that no longer owns its inherent value. I struggle with posting nowadays because I'm not incredibly passionate about what's on the menu anymore. I'm pushed to the outskirts of different mediums or the boundaries of fashion, typically far from the runway. Is my taste too refined, or am I gluttonous and insatiable? I need more. New designers must learn to create shareable content rather than wearable garments. It's a discouraging reality, but I'm going to refrain from being a cynic as I feel that's the way most pseudo-intellectual video essays go. In David Cronenberg's 1989 body horror film Videodrome, he explores the consequences of a culture defined and controlled by the media it creates. With the advent of the home CRT television channels had the challenge of engaging viewers as viewer standards of exciting television grew higher and higher. The news shifted from documentation to entertainment to only displaying the macabre and violent. In Videodrome, an owner of a pornographic TV channel must compete with other channels to provide viewers with exponentially more exciting content. He begins dating a news reporter that can only be satisfied by pain and untraditional forms of pleasure. And he happens on a frequency that connects him to a mysterious channel that shows snuff, torture, and hyperviolence. Instead of being put off by the extremism, he's excited and sees it as a goldmine of content. The channel ultimately serves as a virus which merges viewers' bodies with technology. Cronenberg's film warned us of the consequences of desensitization and how reality will eventually be replaced by a hyperreality. Social media is the retina of the mind's eye. It displays what we are and simultaneously influences what we become. This is a problem. Fashion is adapting to that new world. Clickbait, satire, and irony are at the forefront. Controversy is good. Being cancelled, depending on the circumstances, is beneficial to a brand. Catwalks featuring stunts, gimmicks, and performances meant to be admired, lampooned, and ultimately shared like the Videodrome. Consumers must be able to form a strong opinion of your work without physically engaging with it. Extreme fashion, whether horrific or beautiful, and humorous fashion, whether dumb or witty, will always beat a well-made garment with interesting texture and fit when it comes to virality. Virality over vitality. A thumbnail over a garment. A photo prop over an outfit. Despite the silliness this paradigm sometimes breeds, it does open up new possibilities for artists whose work alone can't break the sound barrier. You must have an awareness of consumer psychology to take advantage of this. Presently, social media marketing skills are more important than practical ones like pattern cutting, sewing, or figure drawing. What will get a reaction from a viewer? What will make them comment, share, or save? Attention. What unifies us as a modern species is shopping. Whether you're poor or rich, old or young, whether you want to live an alternative lifestyle or subscribe to traditional family values, whether you're addicted to shopping or vehemently oppose consumerism, whether you're a dealer or a junkie, whether you live as a real estate broker or as a housewife, you cannot escape the fundamental fact that shopping decisively shapes your lifestyle. Shopping is the matrix of our activities, the pivot of our lives. As our ability to make autonomous decisions marinates and degrades in the soup of content we bathe in on the daily, the reason we gravitate towards a garment becomes less and less about the garment itself and more about what it represents. I buy and identify with a product because it represents a criteria, because it helps support the protection of the rainforest, because it identifies me as a member of a particular subculture, because it displays my particular sort of humor, because it represents a consumer with a taste of music and art, because it aligns myself with the celebrities I revere. In short, because it conforms to my very personal convictions and preferences. This is the part of the garment designers must nowadays focus on, not the neckline, not the darting or the silhouette, but the culture it represents. The golden equation is attention-grabbing visual product plus personalized associative marketing equals success to the power of cultural relevance. But how long until the novelty wears off, until the gimmicks get tired? It's 1886, you're 22 years old, and you're biking to Mr. McAllen's shop, the most famous tailor in the city, to make you a suit for your wedding. You took the day off work at the printing press even though your relationship with your boss has been rocky. Getting a suit from Mr. McAllen is a privilege, and he's typically fully booked. It's raining. The air is dense. It stings your eyes as you bike into the manufacturing district of the city. You get to the shop. You're soaked. You're embarrassed to enter, but you force yourself to go in. Inside, Mr. McAllen has a toilie wrapped with a double-breasted black suit jacket. It's covered in white stitches. He hands you a towel and ushers you into the back to try on your suit. You run your hand over the jacket. The brushed wool is delicate and soft, but the shape is structured like it has its own torso built in. It's lined with satin. You slip it on. A sudden shot of pure excitement pulsates from your heart and out into every corner of your body. You begin to cry. It's perfect. Mr. McAllen brings out a bottle of wine and you drink together, discussing his design process and your wedding plans. 150 years later, and 150 million suits later, the suit's the same, but the experience isn't. Intimacy, belonging, sentimentality, connection. It's been replaced by transient gratification, detached desire, and showmanship. As an artist, designer, or general creator, are your works bricks meant to build a house, or are they meant to break through a window and cause a scene? The latter tends to be more common. Being transgressive just to be transgressive, a rebel without a cause. But I get it. As a young designer, you feel powerless against the strong current of the social media stream. It only makes sense to utilize this power as a tool. But how do we get here? In Guy Debord's 1967 book, The Society of the Spectacle, he explains how modern society has been taken over by symbols, images, and caricatures of a true reality. The spectacle is defined as a social phenomenon where every lived experience recedes into a representation, a separate pseudo-world that can only be looked at, created from the rearrangement of fragmented media taken from every aspect of life. It's a worldview that identifies human social life with its appearances, leading to the perceived autonomous motion and fetishization of commodities. It's the antithesis of meaning, the death of experience, the decline of being into having, and having into merely appearing. Social media is the physical manifestation of the spectacle. All the issues I've brought up so far in this video are a direct consequence of modern society's adoration of the spectacle. One of the few ways Debord proposed we fight against the spectacle is through détournement, a technique he developed with the artistic group he was a part of called the Lettrists, which was later adopted by the infamous Situationists. Détournements involve using spectacular imagery and language to disrupt the flow of the spectacle, often satirizing the spectacle itself through spoofs. I could intellectualize that the need to be performatively transgressive and viral is a forced détournement, a necessary hijacking of the spectacle. The more omnipotent the spectacle becomes, the more sensational the détournements must be. In 1971, Chris Burden shot himself. Burden was a performance artist known for extreme works. He had his friends stand 13 feet away from him with a .22 caliber rifle. A small audience was invited to watch the performance. It was filmed and photographed. The fraction of a second as a shell came from the rifle and entered Burden's flesh will remain forever. The work was made during a time when violence of the Vietnam War was broadcasted on television every day. The performance was meant to resensitize humans to pain, to break down the digital one-way mirror that took away the depravity of war. A sonic boom. In 1973, he made a similar work called Through the Night Softly, where he dragged his naked body across a floor covered in broken glass. He also had a small audience, but for this piece he bought a 10-minute spot on multiple late-night television channels and broadcasted the video of his performance to hundreds of thousands of American households. He wanted to break through the feed, to bring back reality to the hyper-reality of the spectacle, which at that time cable TV was the epitome of. Presently, creators are grasping to do this, but with self-serving objectives. Instant gratification, overnight fame. With or without this intention, the spectacle has gotten too strong. You could only be king for a day. The half-life of an Instagram post is 3 days max. Maybe your work gets reposted and you can extend that by a few weeks, but it's near impossible to break the algorithm and create something immortal. Everybody, from user 83981 to Louis Vuitton, is confined to the curse. Only last year, Wynn Bruce lit himself on fire in front of the Supreme Court and died within a minute. He was a climate activist and was attempting to get the world's attention, to pierce the news cycle and spark change. I only learned about him yesterday while doing research for this video. His striking action was washed away like all others in the tide of hypermedia. The modern martyr. Longevity is being exponentially more unattainable. Ironically, also last year, Elliot Emile set a model on fire down the catwalk for the newest collection. The brand obviously had no authentic intention with the stunt besides getting clicks, but unfortunately this was more talked about than Bruce's death. At this moment, it seems the harder we try to stand out digitally, the faster we die and are forgotten. Okay, so what's the solution? Where's the rock we could throw into the fan to make it slow down? It would seem to not be on the internet. My strongest memories with fashion brands or garments are ones where I experienced them in person. Showrooms, storefronts, seeing someone wear the garment, meeting the designer, pop-up events, and memories I create wearing the garment. Of course, for almost all young designers, half of these are financially unattainable. However, it's very possible to create a pseudo-intimate bond with someone over a screen. Sports fans don't need to ever go to a game to feel like they're part of their team's family. Deep parasocial relationships like this exist within all media. Successful celebrities, musicians, and even brands have incredibly strong bonds with their fans. The pessimistic term for this would be Marx's idea of false consciousness, where this relationship is used to keep the consumer consuming and without class mobility, but I believe it could help to bring back meaning if done authentically. This is something that takes time. In respect to fashion, you need to be able to sell the brand as an identity, a world that your customer wants to be a part of and is proud to be a part of, whether this is through imagery, video, associative marketing, or throwing events. Traditionally, high fashion marketing, like billboards and campaigns, sold an idealized version of the customer. They preyed upon the customer's aspirations and insecurities and sold them in an illusion of luxury. You can be like this too if you buy our product, but this attributes to a false consciousness. I like when brands are transparent and honest, when they reflect who the customer really is, not who they should be. In spite of everything I've said, social media and the hyper-reality do level the playing field of the fashion industry quite a bit. New designers have the opportunity now to communicate their work without having to buy their way into fashion weeks or slither their way up social ladders. Now you can create an online identity that makes you out to seem a lot more important or enigmatic than you are, which will effectuate you getting the opportunities an actually important person would, which you could then use to legitimize yourself as an actually important person. So here I sit now in my soup of content, both a victim and a purveyor of the simulacra, wondering how I can escape or be less of the problem. I'm not sure if there's a true escape, as the whole structure of my being is stitched up of this simulative cloth. As a creator, I hope this video and future long-form content will oppose the hyper-reality I breed on my main Instagram page, and as an individual, I'm trying to have more impactful real experiences and consume media offline. As they say, an individual raised by wolves becomes more like wolves, and an individual raised by objects becomes more like an object.